is. How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Saturday Night, the biopic, talking about the first ever episode of Saturday Night Live that just came out recently. We're going to talk about all the things. We're going to talk about comedians out here tripping, getting high before your first performance, you know what I'm saying, and pulling it out in inappropriate places. You know what we're talking about. We're going to talk about all the things. And if you want to hear what we have to say, sit back, relax, grab a snack, grab a beverage, and listen on in to the first ones to die.
Hey everyone, welcome to the First Ones to Die podcast. My name is Jonathan, and I am here with Alex and Jerome. Jerome, do you want to explain what you have on your head right now?
If you watched our Halloween episode, you know I'm still in character as the Hamburglar, but only in wig only. This is my off time, okay? I'm off duty. I'm not out here robbing the McDonald's currently because it's late at night. They're not open. But you know, it's just me on my off time. You know, t-shirt on, with hair down. Just
you
chilling.
look like an anime character, like full on anime
This
character. Like you need to wear just like a white shirt with a loose tie, so you're like one of those high school anime characters.
Totally, that's true. And I'm like either that or I'm in my emo phase. It's how many years late? Because you know the 2000s have long since came and gone. But you know it's never too late to be out here listening to your MCR records on full blast while you sit in the dark, writing your very gothic poetry.
Gotta love it.
How has your week been, other than completely transforming? You got to go like this.
There it is. hold on. Let me take the headphones off. Just gosh. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing good. My week has been good. I've been mostly doing the same old, watching my shows. Been watching Legend of Vox Machina ended its most recent season. Pretty good season, and just got announced for a season 4. So both the Vox Machina team is excited, but also I am excited for more Vox Machina. And then also Agatha All Along is coming up on its season 5. I think at the time of this recording coming out, actually, it should be already done. But when this comes out. But at the time of this recording, we haven't gotten episodes 8 and 9 yet, but they're supposed to come out as a 2-parter on the same day. So I'm excited to see the season finale. It was really good. The most recent episode 7. So good. This show has been like not as good as like Penguin and stuff for me, but it's been on a steady incline of like quality in the storytelling, but also in the reveals, and the acting has been great all the way from the first episode all the way in. But the reveals they've been having going in, I'm like, man, I wasn't excited about this show at all, but this show is actually like surprising me. Like I'm getting amped for this finale. But we'll see. Disney Plus shows do this all the time. They'll start good, they'll find their rhythm, and then that last 1 or 2 episodes will be trash. So let's see if they can stick the landing. That's what everyone's thinking right now, actually, is if they can stick the landing. So we'll see. Penguin, always good, still going strong. I'm excited to see how that show wraps up as well. But it's like the #1 show right now on television, and people are loving it. They're talking about because they weren't thinking of doing a season 2, but now with all these ratings and stuff, because it was originally going to be just on HBO Max, and then they moved it to be actually in the primetime slot and coming out on HBO like regular every Sunday. That's how much faith they had in the show, and it's been paying dividends since. So a lot of people are amped for them to possibly, now that they're contemplating doing a season 2, like them possibly doing that, especially because they say the way this show ends is supposed to lead into the Batman 2 when they start making that movie. So, and then maybe if they make the Batman 2, maybe then that's supposed to lead into Penguin season 2, but we'll see. But regardless, if you're not watching Penguin right now, watch Penguin. It's so good. Or if you want to wait till it all comes out, understandable. But once it all comes out, watch Penguin. You will not regret it. It's a great show. And that's all the stuff I'm watching. But small media news, nothing big, because I don't want to go too long. Just small things. We got a few trailers out. One for The Electric State, the new Netflix movie starring Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt. I don't think it comes out till next year, I think, or somewhere around there. Or I think it actually might come out this November. Regardless,
I saw it on the Netflix queue or whatever.
I mean, it looks good. I will say it's if you're a fan of the book, it comes out March 14th next year. So yeah, next year. But it looks, if you're a fan of the book, the illustrated book series, from the same artist who also did Tales from the Loop, that book series as well, of illustrations and stuff. It looks just like the book. However, I will say the Electric State book has more sinister overtones than this movie. This movie looks like a straight just adventure film, versus the book is this kind of dystopia about disconnection and human disconnection from society, and and then and commercialism a little bit. And so I'm curious to watch it and see if there are those themes in there, or if it's just straight up its own thing and just using the Electric State visuals to tell its story. I don't know. Because all we got was really just a teaser, really. But it looks, visually, it looks good. So that's interesting. And then we also got a trailer. The other trailer that I liked this past few weeks is Love Hurts, the newest action movie starring, I want to get his name right and pronounce it right, Ki-Hu Kwan. He's finally starring in his own movie. He's been a supporting actor for a lot of movies ever since being in Everything Everywhere All at Once. So he's now finally getting the limelight. He's the front man, main star of this movie. It's a story about this former hitman who's now a realtor, and but his former life is pulling him back in. You've seen it 1,000 times, but Ki-Hu Kwan is just a great actor. So, and the movie itself from the trailer just looks fun. So
I saw the trailer for that when I saw Smile 2.
Yeah,
is it also streaming somewhere, or is it in theaters?
It's going to be in theaters February 7th. It doesn't come out till next year.
Oh, okay. I thought it already. I was like, oh, is it out already? I'm like, I've been dying to see that movie.
Yeah, streaming. But it stars also Ariana DeBose, Daniel Wu, Sean Astin, Mustafa Shakir, I'm sorry, and Marshawn Lynch, of all people.
Marshawn Lynch has been getting his acting.
Yeah, man, his acting bag. He's trying to get that his acting career started.
And he's being smart about it. He's not just playing
And he's good. He was so good. I thought he was so good in Bottoms.
He was good in Bottoms, and he was good in the one season of Westworld he was in as well. So he's got the chops. He's got acting chops. He can do it. I'm excited for him. And then this is. Alex's camera is all folded.
Oh.
I'm turning something off behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
So,
and then this is the last thing of media news, and this is more just like a discussion piece, less so a trailer. But it's finally been declared official that Marvel's Blade, the red-haired stepchild, no pun intended, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has once again been delayed indefinitely. Now, for context of why that makes me giggle and why it's so sad, this movie has been in development hell since 2019 and has gone through 2 directors, multiple scripts, and multiple writers. And Mahershala Ali, meanwhile, has been sitting in the wings waiting for his chance to play as this character ever since he came out on that San Diego Comic-Con stage. And when they told everybody, hey, y'all, we got Blade coming. And now, fast forward to 2024. This movie was supposed to come out November 2025 was the most recent date. That's not happening. Which anybody who knows how movies are made could have assumed that, because they don't have enough time to film, edit, get everything set up for that November 2025 date. But it doesn't matter. The point is, this is embarrassing at this point, okay?
A little bit.
Embarrassing. Because, mind you, other movies that were also announced the same time have all came out since then, except this one. And it's only that much more of an insult to injury because it's not like they don't have a blueprint to go off of. Like Shang-Chi, they had to make it up as they go because there's never been a Shang-Chi movie. Guardians, they had to make it up as they go because there's never been Guardians movie. Even the True Blue Avengers. Captain America, the old movie before that came out in like the 60s or 70s was trash. They had to start from scratch. Iron Man didn't have a movie before that. Thor, no type of way to figure out how to do that movie for most people. Started from scratch, made it happen. You have 3 Blade movies to base your movie off of. Hell, the people who made Blade 1 are still alive. Just call them up to make another Blade movie. It's not hard. Like, at all. Comparatively. So, we'll see.
I feel like it's hard. Maybe it's like it's like the fact that, I don't know, they're trying to figure out, like, is this something people really want? Because I feel like when you're going off like this old cult classic film, feels like it's bound to fail when you're trying to make a new movie or TV show off of something that was like now a cult classic. Because I've never seen a show come off a cult classic and it be good.
I can see your point. I think what it is that they're trying too hard to make this the Marvel way and not just because Blade, admittedly, like there's people who didn't even know Blade, the Wesley Snipes Blade was a Marvel character. They thought he was just an original thing because he's so far removed from Marvel proper. He's not a regular superhero. He doesn't wear tights or nothing like that. He doesn't fight bad guys. He hunts vampires, which is not even really a comic booky thing for most people. Most people assume comic book, superhero, supervillain, that sort of thing. But vampires, most people think is more novel, because they've been around. Vampires are a horror creature that's been around for a very long time in a lot of different forms of media. And so it's like Blade is one of those characters where he is very like his own thing. Even when you buy Blade comics don't really involve other characters except for other people in the Marvel Universe who also hunt vampires like Moon Knight or Hannibal King or Elsa Bloodstone, that sort of thing. But like, so in that way, I could see maybe them having a hard time trying to figure out how to shuffle him in to, like, how am I going to get Mahershala Ali to hang out with Doctor Strange? Well, not even Doctor Strange is the easier one. How do I get him to hang out with like Thor? You know what I mean? Like they don't quite mix in the same circles. So I get that side of it. However, my argument to that is just make it its own thing. Like, we know it's connected because it's being made by your company, but just like how Deadpool and Wolverine, like, there's no cameos from the MCU people. It's all the Fox people. It's very much its own thing, but it still is a part of the Marvel universe proper. And maybe later down the road, they'll figure out how to have Ryan Reynolds in the same room as Chris Hemsworth's Thor and Brie Larson's Captain Marvel and Stephen Strange and all those other characters. But for now, he's in his own little sandbox playing his own little games. Same thing. You could do the same thing with Blade. Just have Mahershala Ali, his own movie. It's technically a Marvel movie, but really he's doing his own thing, fighting vampires in another corner of the Marvel universe. And if it's a money issue of like, well, we want to spend all this money on it, you don't have to. It's Blade. Hell, this is the easiest premise. You could do all this with almost all practical effects, except for the parts when the vampires like turn into dust or whatever when he kills them with silver. That's the only special effects you really need. And like, but you could hire stunt doubles. You can get blood squibs and fake blood. You can get it seems like it'd be the cheapest movie to make out of all the Marvel films they've made so far, especially because it's horror. Horror is always can be made for cheap, comparatively.
Yeah, but they also can't just like make it a straight up horror though. They have to like add constant humor in there, like Agatha, like they do with Agatha. I mean, like if you look at the story objectively, she sold her child for like the Book of the Dam, is it?
Yeah, the Darkhold.
The Darkhold. She's got all these people like trying to kill each other, witches and powers, and it's actually like I think human sacrifice was implied on the show as well. But But of course they have to have quippy and things are light and different colors. Blade is just like a dark movie and a dark film, like lighting wise even. And I don't think Marvel knows how to do that anymore. All their stuff has to be vibrant and colorful. And like, I feel like that's also going to fuck over Blade's character a lot.
Oh, I don't trust him to actually do it well. After I hated the way they did the Moon Knight show. And
yeah,
that's another character who's also like, despite having a white costume, is a darker character. And they couldn't do that either. Werewolf by Night was the closest they've ever gotten. And that was like a little Marvel special they took exclusively on Disney Plus that I don't even know if all the Marvel fans saw it or not. So we'll see. Jonathan, do you have thoughts about the Blade delay? And do you feel for Mahershala Ali as you got a chance to meet the man? Oh, wait,
I didn't meet him, but I was in the same room as him.
Yeah.
And I did
it's closer
see
than
him.
any of us have gotten.
That's true.
I don't.
Would you watch a Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali?
Yeah, I would. And I feel like he's been the name that's been most closely attached to it this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, he's been sticking around. He's under contract, I guess. But I wonder if that contract is based off of when the movie comes out or how much time until the movie comes out. Because maybe he's been hanging on because, well, for 5 years, they've had me under contract. But after this 5th year, the contract's up and I'm going to do something else because I have better things to do. I'm an Academy Award winner 2 times. I don't need this.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Once for Moonlight and then another one for the Green Book.
I don't know why I keep forgetting he was in Moonlight.
It's because he's only in it for like the first third.
Is it? I was
great.
like, I know he's in it, and I remember thinking, "Wow, he's really good." I loved him in Green Book. I guess I got to rewatch Moonlight or something.
He's in the first third of the movie, and then the other 2 sections he's not there. But he stands out so great in the first section that's why he won the Oscar. So
yeah,
but yeah. Other than that, been dealing with sickness because I'm sick. So if you hear me sniffling, audience, that's why I'm sick. I'm dealing with a cold.
Well, we wish you well.
But yeah, but that's been my week and a little bit of the media news. Alex, how's your week been? How you been?
Good. Mentioned in the Halloween episode, but since we're kind of filming these close, I was on a cruise with my mom. It was really nice. I was really grateful because I didn't get seasick at all. And that was really cool. And I said it was probably due to my anxiety because if anybody's shocked by this, I do have anxiety. And sometimes it causes me to feel like things are swaying around me. Like if I'm in a building, it feels like the building's moving. And it's just something, I've kind of gotten used to. And that's what I felt like on the boat. I'm like, the boat had me swaying and I'm like, oh, I know this feeling. I'm okay. So like, yay for anxiety, I think. I'm not sure. But it was helpful in that moment. I didn't feel like puking. So I am weirdly grateful for my anxiety because I had been told so many horror stories about people like, oh yeah, when I had to go on the cruise, I had to take so many pills because I was going to get nauseous and blah, blah, blah. But it was really fun. I got to see some amazing places in Alaska. I got to go to Juneau, Skagway. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. That one was really cool. We went through a train through the mountains and it got so windy and rainy that like we almost got blown over. I kept like, I kind of treated my mom like a child. I won't lie. Cause she like brought her jacket, but I pat my scarf and like, I like wrapped it around her and I kept being like, take my gloves, do this and do that. I'm like, you're not bundled enough. And I'm just like in a jacket, not a very thick one, with like maybe some fleece underneath, and like the wind almost did take me. So that's how powerful it was. And we got to visit Ketchikan, which apparently is basically like a rainforest. It like rains all the time. And we got a beautiful sunny day to visit, which that was really exciting because apparently the last 2 cruise boats to visit couldn't dock because of how rainy and bad the weather was.
Dang.
So
that sucks.
Yeah. And we got to go to my favorite place, the Glacier Bay. It is a national park and it is insane. I literally cried at the beauty of it. It is just amazing and something I am so grateful that I got to experience in my life. And this cruise was a lovely bonding experience with my mom too.
Did you see the
Oh, that's
Aurora
awesome.
Borealis? I know that's something you wanted to see on your.
That
way
was
back.
something I wanted to see. Unfortunately, I didn't see it because like, my mom has a lot of issues too with walking with her knees, and I have a really bad back. So every time we were like running around these towns, we were just so exhausted. When we finally got to our cabin, we were just passing out, both of us. So unfortunately, I don't think I got to see any, but I got to see otters. I got to see so many sea otters. They were so cute. And then there was like a pod, I think it's called, a pod of whales. And I got to see their like water spurts and them flipping their tails everywhere. So that was absolutely amazing to see. I was so excited. I kept like smacking my mom on the shoulder, being like, look over there. Like a little kid again, not thinking that she's like 63 and I'm 33 and I'm probably should whack your mother on your arm around that age. But that was great. And when I got home, I was just exhausted, and I did nothing the next day. Like, drove my mom to the airport, and I just went back to bed and was like, the world doesn't exist for today. So, but
That's awesome though. That's such a fun, unique experience, and to get to experience it with your mom.
Yeah,
you guys will have memories to like you were saying, that the one time when you guys took that tour and you started and you just like busted out laughing the entire time. I bet that's one of those memories that you'll like take with you forever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There were a lot of moments, and it was really nice to. I believe me and my mom got a little closer, and there were like some things that like in a weird way, because we were just there. We're kind of, as she puts it, pack like sardines on the cruise ship, which is something I'll never do. I'll never do a cruise ship again, because people touch everything, and it drove me crazy, and it drove her crazy. Well, she was actually a lot better at it than me. Half the time I was like, I don't want to touch this. I don't want to touch that. And like literally when we got home, I was like, I refuse to pee anywhere but my own bathroom from now on, because like I didn't want to use. I was like, I was done using everybody else's restroom. I liked my bathroom. That was like a weird thing. Something I did do when I got home was I got my little sticker. I voted.
Hey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Voting day is coming up, folks. Vote. Get your ballots in.
Yeah. In Washington, you should have already received your ballots. I filled out mine, and I put it in our ballot box at a Safeway close by. And if you don't know where some ballot boxes are, they do give you a list. I do encourage everybody to go out and vote. It is very important, and I know sometimes people think it's not important, or you have family members who have opposite views, because I've seen a lot of these that are like, oh, I'm just canceling out their vote. It doesn't matter. Your vote is still important, and as somebody who's, as a woman, as a person of color, as, a first generation, there's a lot of issues that I, find personal, but if, you can't really connect with those issues, there is simply something that my mom raised me with called empathy towards others that should help influence you how to vote and care about the issues that are at hand. So please fill out those ballots, get them in, or go to those voting booths if you have early voting or, voting day, but do it. It is unfortunately not a right that everybody gets anymore. And that when you have it, you should do your best to move forward with it and take part in it.
Yeah, and make no mistake, folks, the opposition to whatever change you want to see in this country are banking on you not taking it seriously and not voting. All right, prove them wrong. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of your day, maybe 20 if you want to read through the voter pamphlet that normally comes with your ballot, so you can be more informed on who you're voting for, especially if you have like bills on the ballot and things like that. You want to read up more and know what bills do what. Take your time. But regardless, take a little bit of time out your day. It doesn't take long. You can do it on your lunch break or after you get home. Fill out your ballot, mail it in, put it in a Dropbox, go to the voting centers, however, you do it. Make sure you go out and vote.
That part. Vote.
My hair. I have so much hair.
Yep. If for nothing else, also, if you vote and things don't go your way, you have the right to complain about it. All right? That's what I always say. Because you did your part. You did your job.
Yep. Other than that, I've been good, and I'm frightened to go back to work to see what's there for me, but I'm also kind of excited to go back to work because, like, it's like a normal pace again. I'm sure this first week's going to be hectic, but it's just like going back to, normality and everything like that. I feel like a week vacation is like really good. And like, I can't understand people who take like 2 or more weeks. I feel like that's too much because there's so much like pressure to like do things and go places. And I feel, or maybe it's just like the cruise. That's the longest vacation I've ever had. And it was a cruise, and like there were just so many things constantly. So like, I think maybe like when you're visiting a city or something else, it's probably a little bit different to when you like want more time spent out. But like a week cruise is far more than enough. Also,
I think it depends on how much you work. For some people who like they this is their only time off, like they might take the 2 weeks because they're just like, I work so much. I'm gonna take advantage of this full vacation time as much as possible.
This is the first time I've ever taken like a proper vacation, and like I don't know, maybe I'm just a workaholic. Could be. I am Mexican after all. We have a hard time leaving work behind
too, so I know the feeling.
But anyway, Jonathan, how's your week been?
The week's been good. The weekend went entirely too fast. I don't know what happened to it. But the week's been good so far. The last time, I guess before the last time we talked, or after the last time we talked, I saw Kimberly Kimbo at the Pantages. It's a musical that was on Broadway, and it got rave reviews, and it was really good. It was a really good show. It was basically about this high school girl who has this disease. They never named the disease in the show. She has this disease that makes her look older and ages her, essentially.
Got that reverse Benjamin Buttons.
Huh.
Right. So it ages her rapidly, and basically just her living her normal life, or trying to live a normal life as this kid who looks like a 50-year-old woman, and it's the role is played by a 50-year-old woman, and she did amazing, and the rest of the cast did amazing in the show as well, and it's a really good show. I really recommend it to anybody to go see.
And they don't ever explain like why, or like why she's aging like this, or
they just say it's a disease. They never name the disease, because one of the like plots in it is that she has to do this. Her and her classmates have to do a presentation on a particular disease, and her and the boy she likes, they team up together, and they do their presentation on her disease, but they never name the disease. It's a good show. It's definitely a good show.
Theater is coming out the woodworks, man. And Seattle alone, we got both Wicked and Hamilton coming back to the theater scene out here. Wicked, I think, is funny because it's going to be here around the same. It's starting in November 6th and ends in, I think, December 1st, which I'm like, you can.
And
that's
then it's
right.
coming
So
here.
You could go see Wicked live, and then you can go see the movie Wicked, and then and get double dose of Wicked. Matter of fact, plan a double feature. Go the day before Thanksgiving, see the live show of Wicked. Then the day of Thanksgiving, go see the movie Wicked. See how they compare.
Yep.
And then read the book on the third day.
There you go.
I forgot there's a book about.
Although I heard that the book is very different.
Yeah, I've heard the book is very different too.
And then I mentioned it in our last review, or I hinted at it or whatever. But I saw Smile 2 this past weekend. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
How's the main lead? I heard she was really good. How was the main lead?
Oh, Naomi Scott. Yeah. Jasmine in Aladdin. She was really good. She was like, there's one performance scene because she plays a pop star in the movie. There's one scene where she's like on stage doing the performance, and I'm like, okay, I really buy you as a pop star. And it was just like I'm not giving good. I don't want to give too much away, but you just have to see it for yourself. But the characterness of it all, like the psychological horror, the character horror, and the jump scares, they're all pretty good. They're all of them are on their A game. So I thought it was really enjoyable, and I watched it at like almost 10 p.m. So I think that's prime watching a horror movie. And like a couple days before that, I had an event, or like maybe I think the week prior, there was an event at work. It was like a Halloween event, and they invited like some actors. Like they always invite actors and like social media people who are in the Halloween or horror space. And one of the guys I talked to, he was in Smile 2, and he also played the Xenomorph in Alien Romulus.
Oh,
So-
that's really cool.
They use that guy again. That's interesting.
Yeah, not the
Not the hybrid.
not the hybrid,
Oh,
but
okay.
the Xenomorph. Yeah,
Gotcha.
not the guy we looked up pictures of.
I mean, in all fairness, we look up pictures of a lot of people, so it's
That's true.
not
That's true.
weird.
And then Jerome, I'm shocked and disappointed that you did not mention in your trailers the most important trailer that came out this week, which is the trailer for One of Them Days, starring Kiki and Kiki
you know
Palmer
what it
and
is?
SZA.
I was gonna watch it, and then I had something to do, so I didn't get a chance to fully watch it. But that is right; they did have a trailer come out. I'm excited to see it, just to see what the movie looks like, because
Same.
just from the little bit I did get to see, it looks good.
Same. It looks. I laughed out loud at the trailers. And from a lot of people online, it seems like people are comparing this to like a female-led Friday.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm curious and excited to watch it.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually excited for that.
Oh, what's it about? I haven't heard of. I probably have.
It's
but
basically Kiki Palmer and SZA. They play best friends, and like SZA's boyfriend took all their rent money. So essentially, the movie takes place in one day, and they have to try to find a way to make that rent money by any means possible.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Also, real quick, this is the last discussion thing, because this is other media news thing that I didn't think about till I was talking about the movie. But I'm curious to get you guys' take on this, especially yours, Jonathan, because I feel like this is more your expertise. Are you
going to talk about the Cynthia Erivo thing?
Yes, we got to talk about the Cynthia Erivo thing.
Cynthia Erivo.
So for those who don't know, listening audience and those on this podcast, so basically we all know that Cynthia Erivo is going to be in Wicked, the upcoming movie, as Alphaba, and things are looking good. You know, the trailers look good. Cynthia sounds great doing her songs. Ariana's been great as well. Ariana Grande. It's been great. All the cast is casting. You know, it's looking good. And then they released a poster in homage to the original like Broadway Wicked.
No.
poster.
That's not what happened. No.
That is what happened.
No. That's not what happened. So
But I'm telling the story.
Did. Fine. Go ahead and tell the story.
So they released. I'm trying to pull it up now. So they released this poster in like most recently in honor of like as an homage to the original Broadway Wicked poster. This is the official poster coming out of Disney that they made themselves. However, as you can see if you're looking on the YouTube channel, and for those that are listening, the poster is definitely an homage, but it's not exactly the same as the Broadway poster. There's slight differences, very minimal. The main ones being that Cynthia Erivo's eyes are not covered by the hat, much like the drawing of Alphabet is in the original poster. Her lips aren't red, and also Ariana Grande's face, hand, as she's whispering into Alphabet's ear, as her character is Glinda the Good Witch, is not covering most of her face. It's kind of, her hand is kind of down. So a fan took it upon themselves to go in and modify the poster and make a fan version of the poster that would look more similar to the original. And this spiraled out into a lot of drama with Cynthia Erivo basically putting out a tweet or a thing on Instagram, actually, I think, saying how she was disgusted by the fan poster, mainly because of, for some context, because of, and mind you, I haven't seen this, but just going off of her post on Instagram, comments that she has gotten in relation to her being a woman of color playing as this character. One in particular that she mentioned specifically of a person asking, due to her character Alphabet having green skin, if her pussy is green, quote unquote. That's the exact quote that they said to her. And so I'm thinking from an outside perspective, really this isn't about the fan poster as much as this is about getting a lot of that attitude and that type of reception, and this being the straw that broke the camel's back for her, because the poster eliminates and one of the major things that she had an issue with is how this poster eliminated it being a reflection or being an homage to the original poster. Her eyes are covered, her lips are made bigger and they're red. Mainly the eyes thing is the main thing she was really upset about. So here's the post plus the picture, because I can't find a good just version of just the poster, but that's the poster. And so as you can see, her eyes are covered, her lips have been, I think they've been widened a little bit to give her the smirk, because she's not really smirking in the Disney released poster. And Ariana Grande's face is covered up more with the hand, but really we're talking mostly about the Cynthia Erivo thing. And she was really adamant about the eyes, because saying that, I'll read it from her words, actually. It says, "I'm a real life human being who chose to look right down the barrel of the camera to you, the viewer, because without words we communicate with our eyes." Go on to say, "Our poster is an homage, not an imitation. To edit my face and hide my eyes is to erase me. And that is just deeply hurtful." So those were her comments in regards to the poster and reaction to the thing. I'll let you guys talk, because I've been talking a lot, and say your piece on it before I share a bit of my opinion. But Jonathan, go ahead, and I'll let you go first with what you think about this news and maybe a reaction to it, or if you agree with Cynthia or if you have different thoughts than her, what you're thinking.
Like you said, I think this was definitely a culmination of the other things. I don't think it was solely about this in particular. I think some of the comments, some of which I have seen, and some of which come anytime an actor of color, specifically a black actor, specifically a black woman, has been cast in a role that's usually reserved for someone, a white person. Anytime that person is cast in one of those roles, it usually, almost always, comes with racism. Actually, always. It always comes with attacks. All of that stuff. So I think this was definitely a culmination. This was not solely about that. It was about the other stuff that people had been saying as well. So for that, I understand how she was frustrated. That being said, it was definitely in my opinion, it was a little bit of an overreaction. If anything, I think she should have responded to the other comments that have been made and the racist stuff. I think this was, I don't think it was the fan poster was made with ill intent. That also being said, because of her reaction, people have been doubling down even more on the hatred, which also kind of, you know, doesn't prove her point, but it's like she's justified to be angry if y'all are just going to double down on some of the hatred and dogpiling. So, you know, people need to just chill out. It's a movie. If you watch it, go watch it, enjoy it. If you don't want to watch it and you're just going to be racist, keep your mouth shut and don't watch it. All right? And then Cynthia, you know, like I hope that, you know, people like chill out on you. Because I don't think you deserve the hatred. But I think the post was a little bit, it was, you know, she was in her actress bag. She was in her theater bag when she made that post. She was like, I'm going to give them the drama. And that's what she gave them.
Alex, what are you thinking?
I agree with everything Jonathan said. I don't think it was about really the fan poster, because honestly, people like every day make fan posters. You can see hundreds about the Beetlejuice one. Sometimes people are like, oh, that one's better than, you know, the actual poster, and then you see the fan poster more than the regular poster. I think, yeah, it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It was a bit of an overreaction, saying this is the most vile and disgusting thing she's ever seen. Literally, we've heard somebody ask her if the character's pussy is green. Apologize for the vulgarity of that. But so it was that moment where she's just like, I can't take it anymore. But I could also see how it can be offensive to her, especially when they're making the lips bigger and redder, you know, and especially around Halloween time, people are still idiots and do mimic stuff like that of blackface and things like that. So it's like, I can see how she took it as well, because like, I don't know if you've recently seen these cosplayers that literally did P. Diddy and Justin Bieber, and they're two white guys, and he wore basically a realistic face of P. Diddy and then everything, and it was just like, seriously, man? Seriously? So I can understand why she would get so upset with the adjustments of her lips and making them bigger and redder to almost look like that. And then the only edits to Ariana Grande was just the movement of her hand when, you know, in the poster, she was wearing just all white. So they should have just, you know, whited her out, basically. I don't think that fan had any ill intention at all. They just wanted to make their own artwork, and it blew up more than I feel like it needed to. But like I said, I understand. I do think she had a bit of an overreaction, but I do understand her point, as Jonathan said, constantly with people of color, especially Black women, get hit with so much racism when they're in any type of role. When they try to do anything, because they're like, oh, it's, you know, it was meant for a white person, this, that. The woman's green. It's not meant for any type of she's a green creature, literally green. So she's neither black nor white or anything. She's literally green. And it comes a lot of times in fantasy and, you know, works like that, when you enter in a black character and they're like, well, they can't really be black, you know, there was never, you know, this or that. And it's like, for real, like you see with House of Dragons, oh, there can't really be, you know, a black, what are their last names, the dragon riders?
Targaryen.
Yeah,
Black. In their case, they're the they're not Targaryens. They're but they're similar.
Yeah, they're the salt and they're the sea people.
I can't remember their names right now. Dang it! But I know what you mean.
Lannister.
Yes, like,
yeah.
No,
they're the ones with like they like handle boats, and I just remember a scene where the little girl's like, "You are sea and salt, and Targaryens are blood and fire," or something like that. Point is, I can see how she finally just like had enough and maybe broke. But I think also just kind of attacking this fan poster was like almost giving ammo to people for her to dislike. Because unfortunately, as people of color, we have to choose our fights so very carefully. And when we choose that one fight of, microaggression, people don't see the microaggression. They see you as a, violent person, over the top or something like that, And I think it could have just,
the Valerians. That's what I was
the Valerians, yes. The Valerians.
That's what's bothering me.
Yeah. The Valerians. I think, again, the fan had no ill intentions, and this was probably the wrong battle to pick. Again, like I said, as people of color, we have to pick our battles so carefully, and it gets very frustrating. So I can see how she finally just had enough and was like, I'm dealing with all this bullshit. Now it's just this one little thing that, I had enough. But I think she did make a good point about, the adjustments of the lips. And like I said, especially around this season, you get to see a lot of people who never learned their lesson or clearly have never been told no in their life make the same stupid mistake over and over. Either doing blackface, dressing as Native Americans, dressing as, drunk Mexicans. You'll always have people like that, so, but I think this is a more complicated situation than we can see on the surface.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, I think it's just a matter, and like you both said, it's just a matter of, like, this is just like was the last straw for her for whatever reason. However, I will, like, because for me, I remember when I saw it, my issue is not that the poster doesn't look like the original illustration. My issue is that the poster is boring, because, like, this is the original illustration, and yes, it's meant for Broadway, so they use illustration because that way you can reuse it over and over again, despite whoever the cast is, because of course it's going to go off Broadway at some point. But this poster tells a story. You know what I mean? You got the mystery, the femme fatale, like, hat over the eyes, the evil smirk, the, like, whispering in her ear, Glinda. And of course, if you know anything about Wizard of Oz, you're like, these two characters should not be talking to each other at all. So it's like, if you've never seen Wicked, you don't know what's going on. You're like, what's happening? There's a lot going on story-wise with this poster, which is why it's great and it's timeless and has never been changed to this day. Versus this poster they did for Disney, they're trying to get that, but it's like she looks bored or concerned. And the thing about Alphaba that's interesting is that, or the thing about Wicked that's interesting is that you know, if you're going in cold, you think she's just the Wicked Witch of the West, the confident, evil, sinister character. And I don't know if maybe they're going for a more vulnerable Alphaba. I don't think you can be more vulnerable, because if you actually watch the musical, she starts out vulnerable as, like, this wide-eyed kid coming to this school and meets Glinda. So I don't know if they want to give more of that in the poster, but I just feel like I don't care about the red lips really, or even that you can see her eyes. Just I would like for her to maybe have a face instead of just looking down the barrel and looking like she has no type of emotion at all. Especially when, even with Ariana Grande with her little dimple there, I can tell she's smiling or sinisterly whispering to her in some way, shape, or form, even though her mouth is covered. So it's like, that's my only thing with the poster. But despite that, like, I think it's a thing where, and this is always a struggle when it comes to actors who, because Cynthia Erivo, I always think of as, like, a high-end actor. She's only ever done, like, really big, very dramatic projects, stuff that's, like, on the level of, like, an Oscar caliber projects for the most part, at least the most famous things she's been in. And I think this is her first time doing something that is in the realm of fandom, akin to something like comic book movies or sci-fi movies or whatever, or, musicals, like, musical fandoms and things like that on this scale before. And it is a hard place to get into because, of course, look no further than Halle Bailey, who, when she had her first step into something with the fandom space with Little Mermaid, of course, there was going around was the image of somebody who used AI art to digitally remove her from the first teaser trailer and replace her with a white woman. So it's like, this has happened before, where it's like, people's racism comes out and they don't make room for black people to occupy these spaces that they presume only white people can be in, despite the fact that they're fantastical creatures and fantasy people, and it's a world where magic exists and all types of things. And so why is the most unbelievable thing for you is that a black person is present? That's issues they have to deal with on their own. But regardless, like, it can make it pretty hard for people of color to step into that space and just play these roles. Cause I'm sure, she's excited to play the character. She's doing a great job on screen. She's doing a great job in regards to her chemistry with Ariana Grande and the other characters based off of the trailers that we've seen so far. So she's doing the job and she's doing it well. And so it's a shame that she's had this experience. And so I feel for her on that front. But like you said, I don't think the fan that made that fan poster meant to cause harm. I think, like, much like many other fans who have made fan posters of other pop culture things, they're just trying to, like, make something look more like how they saw it in their comic book, or how they saw it in their the first time they saw that TV show or whatever. And it's not meant to be, and it's not to say you're doing a bad job. It's just to say, hey, I've got talent too. I'm gonna throw my own little artistic license in there and just make something fun. And so I feel bad for that fan. I hope they don't feel. I hope they can see the nuance in it, and that, like, this isn't about you really. This is about much bigger things, and and they don't take it too personally. And I hope Cynthia also has had a chance to. She hasn't responded since making those comments, so we don't know where Cynthia is at or what she's thinking. Ariana Grande did ask for comment from her, and Ariana tried her best to do her media training thing of just being like,
kept it very neutral.
Yeah, she was like, Cynthia's my sister, and she's like,
AI is scary.
Yeah, that's basically where she left it. It's like, AI is crazy. But she didn't lean one way or the other. Yeah, she didn't. Which, I mean, to her credit,
but this wasn't really AI. This was an edit.
Yeah.
But I also came across the TikTok account of the guy who made that edit, and he has a little bit too much dip on his chip. His whole personality is the fact that he blew up because he made that edit, and Cynthia Erivo got mad at him for it. So now he has this, like, personal beef with Cynthia Erivo and his and it's,
I love the one-sided
trying to
beef
get big.
They're like, she hates me. She made one post about you, dude. Relax, you're okay.
Right. I made Cynthia Erivo respond.
Right.
Like, okay.
I made John Leguizamo respond to my post when I showed up a picture of the studio. Yeah, I was super proud of that. Yeah, he's like, I hope you enjoyed the show. I was like,
I remember that.
Yeah, I brought it up a lot. I was so excited. Anyway,
so that's us talking about the Wicked situation. It won't deter me from watching the movie, nonetheless. I'm still gonna watch the movie.
I'll be seated. Because it releases in theaters, and then it comes here to LA, I think a week or two after it comes out in theaters. So I'll be full of Wicked this December and late November.
Speaking of live experiences, though, Saturday Night Live.
That's right.
It is a show that exists and is still going strong in its 50th year being on the air. And now was the time for them to finally produce a movie, a biopic about the show, but not just about the show, but rather about the first episode of Saturday Night Live, back when it was called just Saturday Night. It wasn't even called Saturday Night Live. It was just called Saturday Night. So produced by one Lorne Michaels and a slew of comedians and actors who had never done anything like this before on live television for NBC. And we saw that movie. Yeah. Jonathan, do you want to do your regular, like, here's what the movie's about and cast and things?
I will. First of all, if this is your first time listening to one of our reviews, we go into our non-spoiler thoughts. We'll, say whether or not we liked the movie, our overall non-spoiler thoughts about the film. And then we'll give you a warning and we'll dive deep into all of the spoilers of this film. But basically, Saturday Night, it is a movie that just came out, biographical comedy drama film about the night of the 1975 premiere of NBC's, at the time, Saturday Night, later known as Saturday Night Live. Stars many people, including Gabriel LaBelle, Rachel Sonnet, Corey Michael Smith, Ella Hunt, Dylan O'Brien, Emily Fair, Matt Wood, Lamorne Morris, Kim Matula, Finn Wolfhard, Nicholas Braun, Cooper Hoffman, Andrew Barth Feldman, Kaya Gerber, Tommy Dewey, Willem Dafoe, Matthew Reeves, and J.K. Simmons. So, Jerome, what did you think of Saturday Night?
It was great, man. This movie was a lot of fun. I've already said on this podcast multiple times how much I love a good bottle film. Because they're so hard to write, you only have the one location. And I mean, granted, they utilize the studio space in this movie very well, where you get to see different parts of the studio and things like that. But for the most part, we do not leave this NBC studio for the most of the movie. So we spent all our time there, and also for it to be such an interesting amount of time, because this movie takes place 2 hours before they're about to go live on television. So it's interesting to see this, just like the energy and the rush. I'm not gonna lie, the beginning of the movie pissed me off a little bit with how fast it was moving, because I was like, can you slow it down? God damn it. Like, I'm just trying to learn who these characters are. This is the first 10 minutes. And I'm just like, and I can't focus because by the time I'm trying to learn what's happening, you're moving on to the next thing. But and so in that way, I will say there's a little bit of a pacing issue, I think. But the movie slows down as the story continues and as we get closer and closer to that crunch time of the show coming on, and really gives us, and what I was worried about when the movie started was like I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna connect with all these people, because we get a lot of characters in this movie, because the cast at that time was pretty big on Saturday Night, and all of them were big personalities. You got Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi. Like, it's just a big amount of people to deal with. But the movie, when it slows down, like as we go further along into the bottom of the first act, going into the second and the third act, it really finds its rhythm and does a great job not only balancing all of its characters, but also really engaging you in what's happening and really what's at stake. Because for a large, for the large viewing audience, I'm sure they don't really know how TV worked in the 70s as well as they know how TV works today, and how important Saturday Night Live was with how revolutionary the idea that they were doing was. Because there were variety shows, of course, before, but it was stuff like, dancing, Johnny Carson, like one host really leading the charge on everything. This was the first ever variety show where it's really just like, I don't know, anything and everything goes. Like, we're going to have a host, we're going to have musical guests, we're going to have sketches, we're going to have like a parody news segment. Like, it's just a lot of different things all together being done in this one show, something that had never been done before. And so it does a great job putting you in the mindset of Lorne Michaels, and also putting you in the mindset of these actors who, for a lot of them, they're like, why am I even here? Like, I signed up to do this, but now I'm actually here. I'm honestly like not really sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And then also dealing with some of these studio execs too. We get to see some of the behind the scenes with the people who were behind the scenes making the show happen as well, with like the head like NBC rep guy and some of the assistants and things like that. So it's just a really well-rounded movie that puts you in a time and place really well, and does a great job of keeping up the energy, keeping up the pace, of its storytelling in a way that's really fun. It's energetic. The movie is super funny. I mean, it should be because it's about comedians, but it's very funny. And all the actors, they got to play a lot of the cast members. If they don't at least look like them, all of them nail the roles of being them. Like, you really do feel like you're transported and you are looking at this cast from the 70s. Even the people who have passed away, these actors do a great job embodying them too. So overall, I had a great time with Saturday Night. It was a good movie.
Alex.
I agree with everything he said. I like the pacing in the beginning because I think it kind of shows the passage of time. When you have something important to do, you know, time's going really fast and you're kind of running and running and running. And then the closer it gets to the moment, it suddenly slows down and you're like, okay, I think I got everything. And it's like, you look at the clock and it's suddenly still an hour away and you're like, what the hell? I was like, last time I checked, it was like 10 minutes away. Now it's an hour. So I think it kind of reflected the anxiety of the situation that Lorne Michaels was having at the time, where he had to rush. And in those last minutes, it was kind of dragging because he's like, I know what I have to do, but I can't get it done. I absolutely loved all the actors they chose. They were really cool. The actors, you know, that they got to play, John Belushi? Yeah. He captured his facial features amazingly. And I actually ended up watching the Saturday night episode, the first one, once I got home. Those actors did such an amazing job, almost mimicking the same way they responded in the first episode. And I love in the first episode, you can clearly see how unprepared they were, because just to give an example with Chevy Chase and the first Weekend Update, he's never looking into the correct camera at all. There's like over here and he's talking straight, and then all of a sudden, and you can see him kind of going like, which camera? Come on. So you can, after seeing this movie, I saw more how unprepared they were, and it was like, oh, this makes sense. None of them look ready. And a lot of times there's these moments where they're like, was that supposed to happen? Am I supposed to do this? So the movie was just really cool to see. And yeah, one, I love Dylan O'Brien, so his Dan Aykroyd was really good. And I read up a little bit on the character. He's like, yeah, he's like, I didn't just want to mimic Dan Aykroyd. I wanted to, you know, add my own kind. And the movie kind of made me love Dan Aykroyd a little bit. Like, he seems like a very good guy and sweet guy. So that was also really cool. It made me want to research some of the actors, because I know like some of the things like Chevy Chase and Jim Belushi did not get along at all.
John Belushi. Yeah, right.
John Belushi, sorry. Did not get along at all, and they should make sure to reflect that in the movie as well. But I won't get into spoilers there of how so. But I think it's a good movie, and it's a fun time, and it's super funny. And the actors that pop up, that like Willem Dafoe, I didn't know he was in it, and all of a sudden he was there, and I was like, oh. And a couple other actors that are a bit bigger name and just appear, I feel like, out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, cool, I like this. I like what's going on here. So I would definitely recommend it to others. I have been recommending it to other people. So, but Jonathan, your thoughts?
I second what you guys have both said. I really liked this movie. I appreciated that, you know, SNL. I love SNL. I've been watching it since, I think, 2000. I've been watching it regularly since, I think, 2007 or 8. You know, the Lonely Island era. You had Maya Rudolph, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, all those people. That's Seth Meyers. When all those people were on SNL, that's when I started watching, and I've continued to watch too. And when you think about it, or when I was kind of thinking about it, I'm like, oh dang, they're already making an SNL, a movie about SNL. But if you think about it, this was 50 years ago. The events in this movie took place 50 years ago. The fact that SNL is still running, the fact that Lorne Michaels is still the executive producer.
What's interesting is because there was a time when he left and the show was terrible. It was on the verge of cancellation. The only, like they say, the only person to save it at that time was Eddie Murphy, because he was the funny one. All the sketches were trash, and then they brought him back. and then he came, and then the show shot back up again.
Yeah. It's a testament to the success of the show. The fact that 50 years later it's still relevant in the zeitgeist of pop culture. As much as people like to say, "Oh, SNL is dead and unfunny," it still produces moments. Tell the people literally every clip from SNL, or at least like one or two clips from SNL, go viral on TikTok every single episode.
Oh yeah.
And these are the same people who want to say that it's not relevant anymore.
Well, it's because every year it's because people don't want to give the new cast that they get a chance, because the cast rotates out, and it's just like, you gotta give them a chance. Give them a chance to find their rhythm. They're not gonna start out being the bomb.com, you know.
Mm-hmm. That being said, and I also liked I like this concept of, you know, the bottle film. All these events take place in one short time period. Corey Michael Smith, who played Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
When they showed his image in the first couple minutes of the film, couple seconds of the film, I thought they had flicked to like actual footage of Chevy Chase. and then I saw Dylan O'Brien. I'm like, oh, that's Dylan O'Brien. Why did they
Dylan
show
O'Brien also looks like Dan Aykroyd too?
Pretty well, yeah.
Right. But I could differentiate him a little more. But it was something about Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase that I was like, this is like too uncanny. He looked exactly like him. And then you look at a picture of him like in his, you know, normal day to day, and he doesn't look anything like him. So props to the
same thing with Matt Wood, who plays John Belushi. Like, I thought, like, because I had never seen him before until this movie, at least I think. And I'm just like, man, he looks exactly like John.
Yeah.
It's almost scary how much he looks like John. The only thing he didn't have, I'm like, if you put some shades on him and make him do like a Blues Brothers sketch, you would swear that was John Belushi.
I think it had to do so much with their facial expressions, because I showed Lauren and she was like, he doesn't look anything like him. And I was like, but in the movie, it was just so much. He got his arrogance perfectly.
Well, he got his mannerisms, his body movement, like how he walks, how he talks down, like perfectly.
So props to them, props to the costumers, props to the makeup people who made these people look like these people. One issue I think I had with the film, Gabriel LaBelle does a great job in this movie as Lorne Michaels, you know, centerpiece that has to throw this thing together. It was a little bit distracting for me. I felt like he was a tad bit miscast in this film. And not for any particular reason, just for the fact that I thought he was a little young. And then I looked up the age that Lorne Michaels was when SNL first started, and he was 31. Gabriel LaBelle is currently 22, which means he was probably 21 when they filmed this movie.
Gotcha.
And it read to me, I could tell when I was watching this movie, I'm like, this is a young kid. And I didn't think that Lorne Michaels was that young, and I was right when I looked it up. So that was a little bit distracting for me. Not enough to completely like ruin the experience of the movie, but it's nothing that really he could do. It just was distracting to me. I was like, how is this kid who's clearly in his 20s like running this whole show? So yeah, that was the thing that I noticed. But spoiler thoughts, and I guess it's not really spoilers because it, you know, it's based on
history. Yeah.
Right.
But like, audience, if you don't want to be spoiled, we're about to get into our spoiler section. So go watch the movie if you get a chance. It's a great time. Can't recommend it enough. And then come back, get the rest of this podcast goodness. Hair flip. No, wait. Hair flip. There we go.
Stop by the YouTube channel so you can see those hair flips and not just hear them.
But yeah, who was going into spoilers? Who was you guys' favorite characters? Like, or
Chevy Chase, just for the fact that I mentioned earlier, that he was like his cadence, and he looked exactly like him. And I'd have to say Lamorne Morris as Garrett Morris, and it's funny that they have the same last name,
really
but there is no there's apparently no relation to between Lamorne Morris and Garrett Morris.
That's fun. I mean, he is like one of the new impression guys, because his Denzel Washington is also like spot on.
Oh, and I meant to tell you guys, I passed him maybe like a month and a half, 2 months ago when I was walking in Studio City, and I realized, oh, that's the guy from New Girl, and it was him.
Oh, that's cool. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He seems like he would be just funny fun to hang around with.
Yeah, he's really big with the crew of guys that hang out with King Batch and them. He's been on King Batch's podcast a couple times and stuff. My favorite clip that's on TikTok is King Batch was like, do an impression of Denzel Washington, find out he has an STD at the doctor's office, and it is so funny.
That does feel like something King Batch would ask of him. My favorite, of course, as I've said before, was Dylan O'Brien. He's just an actor that I really like. And I love how much he's growing into more. Because, when you get really famous for doing like a teen show, you get typecast so much. Yeah. But he's really broken out of it. He's even got a new movie, Catago Lake.
Yeah, Catago Lake.
Yeah. It's on HBO Max or Max. That. And I really loved... I'm trying to find these actors' names. Matt Wood played John Belushi, because just the facial expressions that man had, because I feel like he actually didn't have that many lines, at least in the beginning. It was all just facial expression, and it was so cool to see that. And when they put him in the bee costume, I was dying. I was like, that looks exactly like it, especially when I watched the first episode. I was like, that is John Belushi, and it's scary. And they have to be related in some shape or form. They have to be. Like, you can't look that much like a person. He needs to ask his mom where she was like 30 years ago or something. Just saying. Or has he been dead for 30 years? How long has he been gone? When did he die?
Who?
John Belushi died.
John Belushi.
I think in the 80s.
He died 82.
Which is not surprising, because this film does show, and people, when you do watch it, you need to keep in mind this was the 70s. HR did not exist yet. So people were grabbing each other's asses all the time, making very wildly inappropriate comments, snorting cocaine everywhere, smoking weed everywhere, drinking cigarettes, just like everything. Most of the staff was high. Most of the writers were like, hopped up on cocaine, which I'm sure is something so common today, but not as openly as it used to be.
No, actually, funny enough, that's I just watched an interview. I think it was Bobby Moynihan, who was a SNL cast alum, and they were talking to him of like, what's it like working on SNL? He's like, it's a lot. It's a lot of work, because it's an environment that's meant for drugs and nobody's doing them anymore.
Which I think about a lot, because like I think about like comedians, and I'm like, if you're a comedian, you are not right in the head like you do stand up and stuff. I'll be honest, yeah.
Definitely
so like,
not.
As a person who used to self-medicate, let's just say I can't imagine like being in that job and not, unless you're on like proper medication, not self-medicating in a way. But yeah, I feel like the new Saturday night, people are very strict and like, we're staying on a schedule. We're time schedule. And when you're watching this episode, they really had no time frame or schedule. Apparently, they had like 30 skits, and they only could like fit like what? I think 6 or 7 of them. So they're like, we'll figure out how to do everything. And it's like, no. You just need to pick your skits, which eventually they did. Which I wonder how much of that is true. Because how many skits did they learn for that single night, and then only did like 7 of them that he like finalized the show just moments before?
Well, some of them were used to doing things like stand-ups and other sketches or commercials and things like that. So I think for a lot of them, they didn't really care, because they were like, I mean, I know my lines, so whatever we're doing is what we're doing. Especially in the comedy space, you kind of just get used to like what's happening is what's happening, and what's not happening, you just got to roll with it. Like half of comedy is just improv, even stand up. Like you flub a joke, or there's a heckler in the crowd, or there's like, or maybe like your punchline didn't land like you wanted it to, but you got to recover. You can't just stand up there and bomb. Like there's so much improv involved in just being a comedian or being a part of comedy in general. So that I feel like a lot of these people, they probably, like, regardless of what sketches they were going to do or weren't going to do, they were ready. If at the very least, if they weren't going to do the lines, they were at least ready to improv something that would just be funny and not just be the sketch as we're going to do it.
That's true. I would agree that's probably true. But still, the unpreparedness of the show, and then with Lorne Michaels just running, trying to figure out how to do everything. Because in the very beginning of the movie, apparently Lorne Michaels wanted like a bunch of lighting for a couple of the sets, and so much weight of the lights.
He nearly killed them.
Yeah, he nearly killed a bunch of people, and it just comes crashing down. And then there's a little fire, and then everybody's yelling at each other because, like, he's the one who wanted the lights. And he's like, I needed those lights, and now they're all broken. What do we do? And he's like, it's not our problem. You need to figure something out. You're the producer, director at the time?
Producer.
Creator.
Oh.
Creator of the show.
That too.
Yeah. Because he was trying to get so much. And it was also interesting because during the movie, they do mention, and this is still kind of true today, studios make more money off of reruns than they do with new shows sometimes. So they kind of put in new shows to bomb. And it's not a secret. It's a thing that it happens often. That's why you see like a couple episodes of a new show and you're like, oh, this is actually really good. And you never see it again. It's because it was made to fail. They wanted that for Saturday Night Live. And you come to that realization that that was probably very true, because they took a bunch of comedians who they literally call on the first episode not ready for primetime TV. That's what the group was called. And you put them on a show where everybody's like drugged out. You know, Lorne Michaels is a kid who's never had a show produced before ever, and they're taking like this huge chance. And all they want to do is bomb the show so they can show Johnny Carson reruns, because they know people are definitely going to watch that. And it hits Lorne Michaels in this really strong way because he had this whole vision of Saturday night, and then it came crashing down, and he almost lost faith for a second, but it shows like he moved forward. And it kind of, having the show run 50 years is kind of like a great fuck you to those executives. So
yeah, I think that's the part of it that I'm the most that was interested in me the most, is like seeing the execs in the show, because the second Willem Dafoe's character who plays who does he play as? Dave Tebbutt.
I got it.
Who?
No, I said I was gonna get it.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're all good.
But Dave Tebbutt, who I know the name, I don't know why I do. But the second they said his name, they're like, that's Dave Tebbutt. I'm like, oh shit, that's Dave Tebbutt. He's like one of the biggest producers in NBC, and back in the day. And the second he was like, do everything you want to do, I was like, he is playing you. He is playing you like a damn fiddle, because ain't no old man gonna tell the new guard, yeah, just spend all my money all willy-nilly however you want to do it. Nobody does that. Unless they have a plan, and his plan being like, I want y'all to bomb because I don't think you're prepared and ready, and I'm just gonna watch you crash and burn. But it's a thing where I'm like, that's interesting though, because I love those stories. That's why I love the Star Wars story of how like people didn't have faith in that project either. Like the studio thought for sure that movie was gonna be a bomb, and I'd love after watching this movie, I would love a biopic of how Star Wars got made. Like
because even the actors didn't have faith, right? They took the lump sum instead of royalties.
Yeah, I think so. It depends on the person, because like Harrison Ford definitely was like, he didn't take it seriously. He was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this because I think him and George were friends, but he didn't really understand it. A lot of them didn't understand it. They didn't really know where it was going, but they knew it was like a movie, and George had a lot of faith in it, so they did it. And now, fast forward all these many years later, look at where Star Wars is at now, and it's like the ultimate, just like F you to those same studio execs who thought for sure this is like this stupid movie about, you know, men in space with laser swords is going to be a complete bomb. And now in the same thing as Saturday Night Live, where it's like you have these execs who don't believe in it. You have this one lady who's trying to like clean it up, who's like the censor person who's trying to censor the show as much as she can and make it wholesome for families. And they're like, we're a late night show and we're going to let people know it. All right. We're going to make some serious jokes. We're going to talk about some serious adult topics out this bitch. Like best believe. And it's just like, it's just, you know, to see all this resistance to this show and to know what it is now, where now it's like, I mean, now it's not nearly as risque as it used to be. I'll admit, like they have their sketches here and there, but it's not as like madcap as it used to be. But that's because TV has grown. You know, the options are there now to do some of that stuff, so it's not as like crazy to do it anymore. But it's the fact of like they were doing like the stuff that we consider tame now is what they would have considered crazy back then, and they were still doing it back then. You know what I mean? To have someone like George Carlin, especially as your first host, George Carlin was known as the guy who pushed boundaries and pushed limits in regards to comedy. One of his most famous bits is all of the words you can't say on TV, all the curse words you can't say on TV, and he would say them in a super rapid fashion. I can't do it right now, but like that's one of his claims to fame as a comedian. And so to have him be the like first host of the first show, that's a daring move. It's bold, and it's really interesting to see this movie really talk about that stuff and talk about how revolutionary SNL was, because you don't think about it, because SNL has been around for so long and for so many generations. You kind of just like, it's an SNL, it's whatever. But it's like, no, SNL was like not normal television when it was coming out. It was very much a new idea and a new thing, the way they were doing it, and continue to do it to this day.
Also, the guy who played George Carlin, Matthew Rhys, I was like looking at him and I was like, he doesn't look that much like George Carlin, until I watched the first episode and I was like, holy shit, he does look like George Carlin.
Mm-hmm. He was another one.
It's because you're used to George Carlin as an old man. You're not used to seeing him when he was young. And I've seen him when he was young, and I was like, oh my God, that's George Carlin.
Yeah, I never saw George Carlin when he was young or anything. You know, he's always just been that old guy to me. And then I was like, he kind of can resemble a young George Carlin, but not really. And then watching the first episode, I was like, holy shit, that is another great. I don't know who they had for casting, or if they just were like, we want these guys because they're funny, and then the actors really stepped up. I don't know what happened, but they're actors to their appearances, and the, you know, younger versions of the people they're playing is wild. It's literally just wild.
I think starting next year, either next year or the year after, they are introducing the Oscar for casting. They've already introduced it at the Emmys, but the Oscars are going to introduce it either this upcoming year or next year. And this should definitely be a contender if it's eligible this year.
Wait, are they nominating casting for a specific movie or casting people in general?
Casting for a specific movie. So like how a wardrobe person does the wardrobe for a specific movie, or the hair and makeup do. Like the casting people who do casting for a specific movie.
Because I'm like, at some point, if for nothing else, as a legacy Oscar, at the very least, Sarah Halley Finn has to get her Oscar, because she's been the casting director for, I think, every Marvel movie that has come out, and the ones going forward, and movies before that. But I'm just saying, like, her casting picks on point. She hasn't missed yet. Even the movies that you want to say Marvel, like the Marvel movies that aren't necessarily good, the casting was great. It was the other factors that didn't make it good. So she has to get an Oscar for casting at some point if they're adding.
Okay, I just looked it up, and it's starting in 2026 . So not this upcoming. So
not this upcoming year, but next year.
Well, whoever did the casting for Saturday Night needs to be on that list. Hopefully they'll go back a couple years or something, because like they're having some
John
ones
Papsadera. who did the casting for this movie.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it'd be a woman. So it's like picturing in my head.
I mean, there are a lot of casting. A lot of casting directors are women.
I feel like most, like, it's probably like 80% casting directors are women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say a standout for me, even though he doesn't get as much time, but he definitely stands out, especially because he has the hardest job, I feel like, out of all the cast, because he's playing two people, is Nicholas Braun as Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman. Two people who couldn't be more different. Like, Andy Kaufman is so not like, so it's like he has to play these two very different and distinct characters. Yeah, they're both the same person. Nicholas Braun did both.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that at all. Well, he did a damn good job, because I didn't realize that at all.
I could tell because I knew what his face looked like.
Same.
But he was so good as both Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman for the little bit of time he's in there. Especially as Andy Kaufman. He nails Andy Kaufman down with like his awkwardness and also his brand of comedy, because his brand of comedy was so unique at the time. You know, that very like, is it a mistake? Is it not a mistake? Is it awkward? Yes, but it's still funny. Like, Andy Kaufman's such a weird guy with how he did his comedy. And we haven't seen a person on screen as Andy Kaufman since, I think, Jim Carrey did the biopic about Andy Kaufman. So this has been Nicholas Braun did a great job embodying. I wonder if he watched that movie at all, like outside of just also watching Andy Kaufman's performances, of course, to play the role. But he did a great job. And his stuff with Jim Henson was super funny. I'm just like, I think they don't take Muppets seriously. It's like, you damn right we don't take Muppets seriously. They're Muppets.
I take Muppets seriously after I got told I got a Muppet looking face. I didn't know originally, again, I had not seen the first episode of Saturday Night. So when I was like, Jim Henson, I was like, why are there Muppets on SNL? I was so confused. And I was like, and then he goes into explaining how he's like, I want to show that Muppets can also be for adults. Well, they show it is for adults in the first episode. One cool thing about the movie is, after again watching the first episode, is that all the skits they practice throughout the movie, like Chevy Chase and Weekend Update, and all of George, sorry, what's his last name again? George Carlin stand up that he practices is all part of the first episode. The burger. What's that word when somebody breaks into your house?
Burglar.
Thank you.
Hamburger.
With hamburger. I should know that word now. I guess I'm tired. With Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, and I'm trying to think of who else was in there, and Lauren Morris, and I forget which actress was in there, because they didn't really focus on the actresses in this movie. It was heavily
That is
male.
true, especially considering how popular Gilda Radner is.
Yeah,
she did not get a lot of screen, like Ella Hunt, who plays her, but she did not get a lot of screen time.
Well, it just shows how dominated that field was, how dominated a lot of comedy was by men. So, but that scene where they break into John Belushi and his wife's house, and they're like talking about like, oh, you should have security. It's better with these big guns. Lauren Michael. I think I'm a little tired, so bear with me.
Take your time.
Lamore Morse's guns, how they're much bigger, is in that show. So all the skits they prep for, or like, let's try to set this up, is actually in the first episode, and they mimic them so well. It's crazy. And I think they just did a really good job kind of showing that, like, I like that they didn't, move on to the first episode or anything like that. They did the opener for it, and that's where the movie ends. And again, it is so perfect. And the guy who plays John Belushi, his facial expressions just match to a point. I wonder if he just sat there and watched old specials or old episodes of Saturday Night to just get that perfectly. He had to.
Probably. Also, like there's some surprise, like outside of also, you know, Willem Dafoe, and J.K. Simmons to a degree. The surprise for me, John Baptiste being in the movie. I mean, he did the music for the movie as well, or some of it. But
I had remembered from the when they were announcing all the cast members that he was gonna play the I can't remember his name, but the musical guest,
Billy Preston.
Preston.
Yeah, I mean, he was great. He was fun. He was funny. I liked it. I liked his performance, and of course, he sounded great when he did the live performance as Billy Preston as well. But man, yeah, he was good. I mean, all the cast. We keep saying it, but it's true. It's like all the cast. Great job. My only thing is, and this is my question: how much did they pay Finn Wolfhard to not be in this movie? Because he damn sure isn't.
That's what I was gonna say. He did a half day, maybe one full day, and called it a day.
Right.
And they said, all right, you're good.
Because they even bothered to put him in the trailer, knowing damn well he's not in the movie.
He appears like in 3 different scenes. That's it.
3 different scenes, and for all of a total of maybe like 10 seconds each.
When they first announced the cast and said that Finn Wolfhard would be an NBC page, I thought, you know, he was gonna be this like pivotal character who was this like unnamed NBC page that, you know, that came up with the great idea to do this one particular sketch for the show. But no, he was just passing out flyers. He got people in the studio.
Who was Lorne Michaels' like cousin and assistant? I thought it would end up being like the page was that character or that person, but it ended up being somebody else. What was his name?
Yeah,
he was also very funny.
Neil Levy or Levi, but played by Andrew Barth Feldman.
Andrew Barth Feldman. He was really good.
He was so great. Funny. I loved seeing him because last time I saw him was in No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. Same. So it was great to see him in this movie doing a great job as well, because he was great in that movie as well.
Yeah, he was great. It was super funny when he got high and the whole cast is like, he's like, I feel like my face is inside out, and the whole cast is like behind the door being like, no, you're okay. They're like, why don't you come out and we can make sure your face is intact. It was just really funny when he got stoned and all panicky and scared. So that was also fun. I mentioned this to Jerome after watching it with Dan Aykroyd's character. I don't know if it's so accurate, but I did read up on him a little bit, and it seems to be kind of be true how Dan Aykroyd didn't really partake in like the drugs or anything, but he was super helpful around the cast. And he apparently, when Saturday Night started, they often, even though he was like the youngest member, people often ran to him for help, especially when somebody was like, you know, a little too high or took a little too much cocaine or got, as George Collins got lockjaw. So he like helped him rub his jaw out. It showed in the movie how they kept like calling for Dan Aykroyd's character. They're like, Dan, can you help us out, Dan? And it was just really sweet to also read that eventually when I came home, and I was like, oh, Dan Aykroyd actually was that type of person and was so helpful on set, just like caring for the other, you know, cast members. But that was also really coolly portrayed in the movie, because I was really sad Dylan O'Brien didn't get more time. But when he did get the time, he really he took over the screen with his acting. And it wasn't, you know, huge or anything like that, but it was just how nice his character was and how like fun his character was. Or I feel like weird calling it a character because it's like a portrayal of an active person.
Right.
So it's like, it's not technically a character, but it is a character, because I did read that Dylan O'Brien was like, yeah, I didn't want to do too much of him because apparently him and Dan Aykroyd are a lot alike. They're very loose and easygoing and like relaxed when it comes to like being on set. So he's like, I'm like that. I can just be more me than Dan, because I don't want to just go in there and mimic this man and just, you know, copy everything. He's like, I want to add my own flair to it, which is completely understandable. So That was something I really loved throughout this whole movie was, of course, Dylan O'Brien, and I did wish he'd get more screen time. But I did love they showed the basically hatred between John Belushi and Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
That was great. The whole interaction between them every time they were on screen together was just like you could feel that hate there. The justified
that
hate.
Chevy Chase is a jerk.
That's one way to put it.
I've heard that over the years. I feel like it came to a head when he was on Community, and there were stories about him behind the scenes on Community.
Yeah, Joel McHale's also talked about him not being. Joel McHale and Don Glover both have talked about Chevy Chase not being great to work with.
Yeah, which you can kind of tell because of just like, no, I mean, it's just like every time I've ever seen him in an interview, he's very self-absorbed. And in Saturday Night, they really do that because Willem Dafoe's character is like, hey, like, you're a good looking guy. We're going to need somebody to replace Johnny Carson eventually. So like, maybe think about your future in that. Almost already trying to poach him for another job. And Chevy Chase was like, I don't think this show's going to survive. If that's going to be waiting for me, I'd love it.
J.K. Simmons playing Milton or who did he play? Milton Berle.
Yeah.
Puts him in his place. Literally pulls it out on him. Puts it on the table. Says, that's right. You wish you had this type of confidence.
Not prepared for that. I mean, super
you don't
happy
see anything,
they didn't show it.
But just the implication alone is just like, for real?
I'd like to take really quick and tell everybody that my nose is red because we filmed the Halloween episode earlier. I'm not sick. I'm not drunk. I'm not high or anything. I just keep looking at it. I'm like, God, it's so red. It's very shiny too. I've not been drinking. I've not smoked anything. And I'm not sick. I'm like Jerome. Want to put that out there, but anything.
You haven't been pulling one of these cast member moves?
Nope, I have not been writing recently, so
I feel like an actor, a couple actors. Number one, the dude who plays, and I want to look him up, and I want to make sure I get his name right because he was great, even though I'm sure he's not going to really get a lot of shine. Tommy Dewey as Michael O'Donoghue, great casting. For me, he was the show stealer for every scene he was in as the main writer, of course, of SNL, but also as the actor. I mean, he was like, he reminded me of Joel McHale to a degree, actually, of like Joel McHale when he plays like assholes, of just that like smarmy,
I know, every time he
know it all, like attitude and stuff, which I think I hear that Michael O'Donoghue was kind of like that.
I can believe it.
That overconfidence. But I thought his performance was pretty good, especially because for a large part of the performance he has these shades on, so you can't really see his eyes, and so a lot of his acting has to come through his voice and inflections and things like that, and he does a great job because that's pretty difficult because the eyes are like one of the easiest ways to communicate your facial expression, what you're trying to get through, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. So when those are blocked up, everything else has to do the work for you. And he does a pretty good job with the character, I think, of capturing them. Jonathan, you look like you were going to say something. So I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, it was, I just agree. He was, he definitely played the smarmy character very well. I kind of got annoyed every time he was on screen, but not because
I liked it, and this comes from a person who, like, when he made that Christian joke, you would think I would have been offended, but I've been like, and like, for the artist in me was like, that's right, you tell her what it is.
You're not touching my stuff, yeah.
But this is coming from a Christian kid that makes his own Bible jokes all the time. So I don't have room to talk. That makes me a bad Christian. It's all right. I'll ask for repentance later.
What do we
last person before we get into final thoughts real quick. Also, because I feel like they're not going to get enough shine, even though their scenes in the movie did make me laugh, and I felt bad both for the real person they're portraying, but also the person, the fact that they weren't in the movie more, is Nicholas Padani as Billy Crystal. Because I didn't know that Billy Crystal had a shot on SNL. And I think he still ended up doing it, right? Like, didn't he still end up being on SNL, even though he wasn't on that first episode?
A while later. Let me see.
He was a cast member and frequent host of Saturday Night Live from 1984 to 1985.
Okay, so he showed up in the 80s. Got it.
So who was that woman he was with, real quick?
I honestly don't know. It's because all the men get all the shine in this movie. All the women.
Yeah.
I know. Well, we didn't talk real quick. Rachel Sonnet, who played
she's the one woman
Rosie
who does
Schuster.
get a lot of shine in the story.
I thought she did a great job.
She did do a good job.
I'm happy that she's Rachel Sonnet is like popping off because she's really good and funny.
Yeah, I mean she nails, as always with Rachel Sonnet. Like she nails the role. She's great. I think what makes the best is she has chemistry with everybody. Like when she's doing her scenes with Dylan O'Brien as Dan Aykroyd, like you can tell they're okay. I could see how this relationship is blossoming between Dan Aykroyd and Rosie Schuster. I also can see how the relationship used to be with Lorne Michaels and Rosie Schuster, like how their relationship used to be because of her good chemistry with Gabriel LaBelle. Like she's just great. And then like how she interacts with Matt Wood as John Belushi. Like every character, she just like kills it in the role of being this like the kind of like the glue that's holding this show together when Lorne Michaels isn't around, and being kind of that backbone to be that extra person to be like, come on guys, let's get along. Like, or if people's egos need to be tempered, she's there for that too. Like she's just phenomenal. She's great.
I will say also that like they were like kind of telling Lorne Michaels to fuck off, he kind of was like, Rosie, can you? And she's like, yeah. So you can tell how much they respected her. Mm-hmm. Because John Belushi would not give Lorne Michaels the time of day, wouldn't talk to him or anything. But the moment Rosie was like, can you do this for me? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it for you. How much they respected her, how much they trusted her when it came to certain skits. And I'm sure later on, as they were doing, more, putting themselves more in these ridiculous situations, how much more she had to convince him, or how much more she had to be like, you just have to trust me. It will work out, please. And how much faith they must have had in her.
Also, for a little bit of history in the making, check this out. I just found it. This is an old picture of Rosie, the real Rosie Schuster, with Dan Aykroyd, a young Dan Aykroyd. Look at him, man. He's so young. He looks all Hollywood.
Just done very nicely.
Mm-hmm. And they look like happy together. They're not married though. They didn't get married or nothing like that. In fact, she never remarried after Lorne Michaels, after they divorced in 1980.
Good for her.
But yeah, Rachel Sonnet, she's great. I mean, I haven't seen one bad performance from her yet. Even in The Idol, she was like one of the standout people in that show. It's like she was doing her job. So like I think she's incredible. She just keeps proving to be one of the best new talents out right now, killing it in everything she does. So I had no doubts that she would do a great job in this movie.
Sure.
So,
did you know?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Did you know? And I had heard this on a podcast a while back. Did you know, this doesn't have really anything to do with the movie. But did you know that Eddie Murphy hosted? He was the first person, and I think maybe only at this point. I don't know if anyone else has, but he was the first and possibly only, like I said, cast member, SNL cast member, to host multiple episodes, while he was a cast member on the show.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
He hosted in the 80s when he was on the show. He hosted 2 episodes.
No, I didn't know that.
Which apparently caused like strife behind the scenes or whatever.
Well, it's not his fault. He was the only one that showed up to work. Because he was literally, they say he was the only funny one on the cast at that time. Like anything Eddie was in was gold. Anything everybody else was in without him, they were like, man, don't get out here with that bullshit.
That's gotta suck so much, being like, this guy's the funny one. Great. Where does that leave us? You're not gonna like it.
Like Eddie Murphy, in fact, when he not the last time he hosted SNL, but I think a time before that, they were doing that series of like behind the scenes stories, like different cast members told stories from the past. And Eddie Murphy did one where he talked about how there was a sketch he was supposed to do that was like, he was supposed to eat dog food, and he was supposed to eat it was supposed to be real dog food, but he talked to, I think, like the props person or whatever to get them to turn it to make it not dog food, because A, he had to do it during rehearsal, and also B, he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do it on the day. And so they changed it to chili or something like that, something more edible. And he ate it, but only he and that props person knew that. And the producer at the time lined everybody up and was firing cast members. And he was like, and he pointed to Eddie, and he was like, the only reason Eddie's not fired today is because he ate that damn dog food. And Eddie Murphy was like, and I thought to myself the whole time, like, if he only knew.
Played it well.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, the 80s, they say the 80s was the darkest time of SNL as far as like it not being at its worst in regards to sketches and cast members, even where a lot of the cast members were people that the audience was like, no, I don't think so. One of the also interesting SNL alum that most people don't know was an SNL alum, because he only was on in a few sketches and only in, I think, one season, was Robert Downey Jr. is an SNL as a cast member. Which he is funny.
He is. Final thoughts. Jerome, final thoughts on Saturday Night.
I'm gonna keep it short because I don't think there's anything more I can say about this movie, how much I love this movie. First of all, grade. You could sit pretty sitting right next to Blink Twice with the A+ rating from yours truly, because I love this movie. I think this movie is like, despite what I said about like the pacing, it's one of those things where I do think the beginning is just a little too quick, but like for me, like the atmosphere, the storytelling, the writing, the acting, the cinematography at times, like all of that trumps that minor issue I have with just the beginning of the first act. Like this movie is really up my alley as far as like delivering the information. It doesn't waste your time. All the characters are fun. All the jokes land. And in that same vein, all the actors are well casted. Everyone gives 110% playing in their roles. Even the smaller parts, even though they don't get as much shine, they're still great too. Everything is just like firing at 100 for me personally watching this movie. And I am like, it's one of those movies where I would be glad to watch this again, not only just in general, but if someone was like, I haven't seen Saturday Night and it's still in theaters, all right, we're getting tickets right now. Let's go see Saturday Night. It's going to be a good time. Like I had a great time watching this movie, especially if you're a huge Saturday Night Live fan or a huge just TV history fan, like you've been watching TV or know a lot of TV since the 70s leading into the the modern day, you'll have a great time watching this movie, just seeing all the cameos and different people and different actors and performers who show up, and it's just a great time overall. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I think this movie is fantastic, and I do give it an A+ because it is straight up just about, the chaos and what was going on behind the scenes, and not only with the actors but with the producers and the writers, and how the executives kind of were undermining him, but he was so determined to be like, this show's gonna air. And it really shows to how one's project, especially when you're the creative type, whether it's writing, painting, screenwriting, anything, creating a whole show, how you can get so kind of, narrow focus that you don't realize maybe what other issues are going on. And sometimes other people have to bring you down to reality. I will say this movie is definitely not so much about the scenes, but definitely about the actors and characters and the people they're portraying. Because as we talked about tonight, we mostly talked about the cast. We didn't really talk about the scenes of the movie. That's because it is definitely about them and who they are and who they're portraying, and it's incredible. And I recommend also, after you watch this movie, going to go watch the first episode of SNL, and it'll shock you how much they actually were able to portray these characters so well, given that some of them have passed away and now they can only view it through video. Others, like Dylan O'Brien, had never met Dan Aykroyd, and he didn't want to meet him until after they finished taping because he didn't want to apparently be influenced. I think is a little weird, but I kind of get it.
I mean, it can work either way, depending on how you do it.
Yeah, he really wanted to, still be his own, but still pay respects to the actor. And I think this whole cast did that extremely well. And I think, again, this movie is mostly about the actors or the actors who were in Saturday Night, and how everybody was so young and it was just chaotic, but somehow they were able to pull it through. And now 50 years later, that show is still running so strong, and it is something that at least everybody has watched once or everybody knows of. So that is something that nobody expected to happen, but it happened. So I recommend watching this movie, and I would definitely go see it again. Like, it made me laugh. It was exciting. So what about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I once again echo what you guys said. I enjoyed this film. I thought it was a lot of fun. Not only fun, but kind of like definitely a time capsule. I felt like, even though this movie was 20 years before my time, it felt like I was there. And especially having such a rich history with Saturday Night Live for a good portion of my life, I felt like a lot of what I saw was very familiar. It's so crazy to see how much of the show has stayed the same from day one, from Weekend Update to the Live from New York is Saturday Night, to the formula of the host and the musical guests and all the cast members and the setup of the live show. So much of it has stayed the same. And that is really a testament to, from day one, it was just set up for success, even though, we see all the struggles and everything from the first episode. Like I mentioned, I had a little problem with our main character of Lorne Michaels with the casting, but overall that didn't really deter my enjoyment of the movie as a whole. I'm definitely gonna give this movie an A. I just enjoyed it, and I love SNL, and
I think this movie definitely deserves an A, because also it hits you on the nostalgic level. Because I remember, growing up as a kid and being like, Saturday Night Live was that like show kids weren't allowed to watch because it was late, and they had those risky comedy sketches and everything, and like getting to see, like, it was always like that. It wasn't meant to, it was meant to be Saturday Night Live. It was meant to be off the prime time, meant for just, adult fun. But now it kind of can be kid fun too. They've really calmed it down over the years, but it
Well,
did
especially because
hit.
with the internet now, you can watch the sketches like
That's true.
anytime. You don't have to watch it on Saturday night. I don't always watch it on Saturday night. A lot of times I end up watching the sketches after the fact, like the day after.
That's true. So I think it hit a nostalgic level too, that like, and it didn't disappoint, because sometimes when you hit that nostalgic level, you're like, oh man, it wasn't but you expected Saturday Night Live to be like that. So it was fun to be like, yeah, I imagine it to be like that. Everybody hopped up on cocaine, running around, being insane. Plus it was the 70s. So
and it's also how young they were. Like, this cast, even though a lot of the actors that are playing these characters are definitely in their 30s, the actual actors at that time were in their 20s. Like, a lot of them were 20-year-old comedians, have barely had jobs or done like minimal things. They'd never done anything like that before. And so, as a person who remembers being in film school and doing projects with 20-something-year-olds where all of us are hopped up on energy and we think we can do anything and we're invincible and we're willing to try anything and everything, despite the fact that it's dumb or on paper that should definitely not work, or that's not how you do it. You just do it, and you just like, and you just see, if it'll work. And if it does, awesome. And if it doesn't, we'll move on. It doesn't matter. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, let us know your thoughts of Saturday Night. Did you enjoy the film? And if so, why? Socials, Alex, where can people find you?
You can find me at Alex and Nobody on Instagram and on TikTok, as well as the podcast TikTok, where I show clips of episodes we have done, things we may be doing, like movies or shows we may be reviewing, and other just random things, as well as movies I personally review myself. As I mentioned in the last episode, because we haven't filmed these very far apart, that I did Salem's Lot and people's lack of self-preservation. One thing I do love about horror films, and since it's still spooky season, is that you always get to see what people should not be doing. Stop going into dark hallways, guys. Don't read the Latin in the ancient book. Just, some ground rules. But Jerome, where are we finding you?
You can find me at Not Jerome Rhett. Not Jerome Rhett on Instagram. You can also check me out on the YouTube channel for The First Ones to Die. Yes, that's right. The YouTube channel where you can find all types of things that you can't get on the audio streaming platform. Stuff like video game videos. Yeah. Sorry. Hold on. Let's say that again.
Video game videos.
Gaming content. There we go. Gaming content. Mini reviews, book reviews, vlogs, and video versions of all of the podcasts as well, so you can see our lovely faces, or sometimes lack thereof, because you have a hair going on that's covering your eyes. But nonetheless, it's all the same. Come on over to the YouTube channel, The First Ones Die, if you're listening to this on the audio platform. And if you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much for doing so. And if you're, you like what we do, or you like the video, or you like the review, please subscribe, you know what I'm saying? And like, favorite, share, do all the things if you could. That would help us out a lot. And then, tell your friends, of course, as well, to come on over and get them some of this podcast goodness. It's a good time over here. We have fun, as you can see. Anyway, Jonathan, where can people find you?
You can find me at Jonathan Keys on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you please. You can follow us at The First Ones to Die on all platforms. Email us thefirstones2die@gmail.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. If you are listening to us, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and review. We would greatly appreciate that a lot.
All right. Tune in next week, audience, for something.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We don't quite know what it is yet. But when we do, trust me, you'll know, because the episode will be out. But until then, have a good night, good morning, good evening, whenever you're listening to this. We will catch you for the next one. Bye.
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 I have questions to why.
Oh my God, Alex. It's happening again. Look.
What?
Newest Netflix movie. Look at her. She's
Oh
right
my
there.
God.
Gosh.
go on over to the YouTube channel at The First Ones to Die to see all the fun stuff we got going on here, like mini reviews, book reviews, gaming videos, vlogs, all types of stuff.
Please follow us at The First Ones to Die everywhere. Go ahead and give us a like and subscribe.